Run Pure Sports Print Factory is live for the last Monday night game of the National Football League season. It's a good one tonight. At least it seems like it's going to be a good one, almost as good as the game that we saw last night. We've got the Vikings and the Rams game being played in Arizona, so a neutral location, even though the Rams are technically the home team, guys. There was a game earlier this year between these two teams that the Rams came away victorious. We've got a lot to talk about. Certainly want to talk about the king of the Endzone pool. That was something yesterday where we almost got in there with Troy Franklin until Curtis Samuel, of all people, got the longest touchdown of the day. And look, if you're looking at that yesterday, how these touchdowns went, I mean, you got to be interested in guys like Demarcus Robinson and Jordan Naylor on tonight's slate. But we'll talk about all that. Reggie's here with JSU. Quinn is here behind me, sleeping. There may be a stray cat that's going to pop into Tony's office here. But, Tony, how's your Monday going?
It's good. Like I said, when I popped on, it's always a good Monday when I get to see your bald, freshly shaven dome. I don't have to look at JSU, who hasn't got a haircut since summer. I love popping in and seeing your mug on a Monday.
I appreciate that, but I haven't shaved in a few days.
You got some stub up there after I talked to you up?
I don't feel good about it, but I didn't have enough time.
You've never had stub ever.
No. I like to keep it very, very smooth. And the thing is, I'm going to the gym as soon as this is over. So once I get done with the gym, it's just easier to shave when you've been working out. So that's the plan for me for the rest of the day before NBA, before the game. JSU, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, JT knows, you know what I mean? That it's easier to do that type of stuff after you're done working out. So I knew, but you have like you're like a regiment guy. You're like me, probably. You like to get your stuff done in a certain order, and that's how it happens. It's not like Tony, just like, no, like besides lunch is the only thing that he has to do every single day. Outside of lunch, it's no hold bars with Tony. I mean, JT, he's got to get his workout in at the right time. He's got the show, the NBA slate, cutting his hair. Everything's got to be set at the right time.
Yeah,
that's how I am, JT.
At the gym. I was going to be at the gym right now until you sent me a message saying, "Hey, we're doing this at this time." So my whole day.
I'm sorry. I ruined it.
You're not sorry, because it's like every Monday.
He said you're not sorry.
It's not. I'm not blaming JSU. It's each one of us.
Well, wait a second. You were blaming the RPS scheduler in the NFL chat a couple days ago. I did see that.
That was different, and
I took that personally, JT. I took it personally.
You moved the time right up after that.
Let's just say there may be a member of the RPS coordinator community that is very, very upset when things aren't laid out exactly how things are supposed to go. And it creates, let's just, I don't want to go into detail. It creates an interesting time. I
want a name. I want a full name. I want a background on him, JT. You tell me right now. I want the whole spiel with them. I want to hear it. I want to know who it is. I want your name.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely know, but that's sort of like, that was the reference. So that was something that we talked about. But we've got Monday Night Football. And again, we talked about this, right? How exciting is it that the NFL during the regular season, we got a couple of Mondays where we had 2 games and 2-game slates. Now we get this 5 straight days of football, right? With the NCAA tournament and now the NFL playoffs. Of course, I did mention there's an NBA slate. Get in there. Get into the Run Pure Sports Discord. We'll have cores up. Core plays. Guys are in the Discord going to be talking about the slate tonight. It's a great way to kick off the week. Big T, what are your thoughts here on the first weekend of the NFL? You got some really, I don't know, not great games that we expected to go the way they went, like the Steelers and the Ravens. That one was one that we could have seen coming from a mile away. And then last night, an upset of sorts, right? There were people who thought that, hey, this has been a nice run for Dan Quinn, Jaden Daniels, the Commanders, but rookie quarterbacks aren't going to get it done, especially on the road. What a thrilling game. What a thrilling end. I thought for sure, Tony, that when Zane Gonzalez was walking onto the field, twitching like he had just come out of a methadone clinic. Thought for sure he was missing that, and we were headed to overtime. But a little bit of luck prevailed. What's your thoughts here on the first weekend of this season?
Yeah, it was a good week. I picked a few upsets, and like all year, the favorites keep winning for the most part. I mean, I know Houston was a little dog, Washington was a little dog, but none of the big chalk held up, which is going to be great for next weekend. Even though I picked a few dogs, I am not disappointed to see Buffalo versus Baltimore, games like that. So when the favorites win opening weekend, that is a good thing. And next weekend is going to be incredible now because of what happened this weekend. I was with you last night as far as the kicker. He looked super nervous to me too when he was going out there. Yeah. They took a 5-yard loss or something the play before, which made no sense to me. I hate when teams just, I know you're playing for the last shot like in basketball type thing, but I've never understood why you don't just try to at least run forward and maybe you break it and score or something. I don't know. Like, why always rely on that kicker's foot when they just sometimes miss? That's a lot of pressure, like to go out there and kick that when you're Zane Gonzalez. So I was happy it went in because I did have Washington and I got Jaden in a bunch of like the postseason stuff. So I needed it, but it was fun though. I enjoyed it. It was a good weekend of football. I did pretty good fantasy wise. So it was fun. It was a good weekend.
JSU, I mean, we were talking in Discord before yesterday's games, and someone was saying they didn't want to play Bucky Irving, who turned out to be the lowest scoring of the 4 legitimate running backs that you could have played at the highest ownership. But one of the things I said was, hey, there's 4 legitimate running backs on this slate, and then everything else is like fringe. You're hoping for some wild play calling. You're hoping for an injury. I was well over the field on Saquon Barkley at the end of that game, and I'm like, you're up by 12 points. Like, why are you stopping? You're not, what are you doing? Like, run, get your playoff touchdown. Big swing there at the end of that game. He still ended up in, at least he was in a couple of the winners, second and third place teams, but big swing there. What are your thoughts overall on the first weekend of the NFL playoffs?
Well, yeah, first off, I mean, the slate was just weird, right, JT? Like the first 2 games, there weren't many like studs that went off. There was a lot of no-name guys that went off. So like the Saquons that only got 16 or 17, that still worked. You know what I mean? Even though he was the lowest scorer by a few points, it still worked because you needed a couple of those running backs because all those stud wide receivers until the late game were finally like Mike Evans or Terry McLaurin did something. Outside of those 2, if you didn't play those 2, your guys failed if you paid up for a receiver. Besides those 2 guys. So that's why it still worked out. But going back to, you started with Washington, obviously, because that was the last game. It's the first game on our mind from yesterday. Jaden's just he's not like a normal rookie. He's just so like calm at the end of games. It's just, and you can tell like nothing really gets to him. He got hit on the sideline like, if that was Pat Mahomes, I tweeted it out, and DC had the great reply of the guy who hit him would be in jail right now. If that hit on the sideline was Pat Mahomes, there would be 10,000 flags raining down, but it was Jaden Daniels. And I mean, I'm glad they didn't throw a flag, but I just hate that there's that like double standard with like, if that was Pat Mahomes, 1,000% there would have been a flag going nuts. So that was kind of a little bit annoying to me watching that. But he's great. Like he's great. He made throws when it mattered. I also saw all those people like after they didn't get it on 4th down, like kick the field goal. Everyone wants to say after the fact to do shit like that. But the reason why Washington is in the position they're in the first place is because all year they played pretty aggressive, especially early in the season. They were very aggressive on 4th down and short, and it saved them in a lot of games this year. And that's the style. So you don't go away from the style in the biggest game of the year. You ride that. Just what got you there to begin with, you ride that. I love that they went for it on 4th down multiple times, even though they didn't get it. It showed that they were at least trying to win the game. All right. And if they lose playing that style, they should be cool with it because that was a style that got them there in the first place. It won them a bunch of games during the regular season. So I loved that they went for it. And, Baker obviously with the missed snap and turning the football over kind of lost the game for his team, but it was a great game. The other two games, not so great. I was wrong on the Packers, and I'm glad they didn't somehow win that game because they've got nobody left, man. They literally they'd be limping into the next game with like no Jacobs, no Jaden Reed, no Dobbs. I mean, so yeah, I was wrong on them. It was a close game though. It was a close game. I honestly didn't even feel that bad about it, to be honest with you. Those were two really good football teams. Jordan Love just didn't have a good first half. He had a terrible first half. The defense was amazing. I mean, outside of the touchdown, when the dude fumbled at the very beginning of the game and then clearly recovered it, but that's neither here nor there, and Jalen Hurts threw that touchdown. Outside of that, the Packers defense was amazing. The entire game. That's a great offense in Philadelphia, and they did a really good job against them. It's just their offense, they couldn't give them two good halves, unfortunately, offensively. So that was a loser. The one I was wrongest about was the Chargers in Houston, because that was more of a lopsided. Both teams were bad, but Houston was the better bad team, and they killed them. So, just looking back on the weekend, I had some good calls, had some bad calls, but I feel pretty good about it. I mean, my Rams teams tonight, Baltimore laid the whooping. The Bills. I mean, was there more of a mismatch than the Bills game, honestly, in the playoffs so far?
I thought that the Ravens Steelers end score was closer than the game looked. I mean, that was just, to me, kind of an obvious thing. Obviously, you got the Texans and the Chargers that outside of that first possession, it just was all Houston. So, and then, watching that Packers game, I haven't watched a lot of Packers football this year just because maybe it's because for DFS purposes, it was really hard outside of Josh Jacobs to get excited about any of those receivers. But watching those receivers, I mean, is it me or did they seem completely and totally undersized for the NFL? Like these are guys that are not going to hold up.
That's why they're always hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, they are always hurt.
And guys
with the concussions.
Guys talking
Dobbs with another concussion too, which was really bad, by the way. Like a really bad look for Dobbs. Poor guy. He's had a few concussions, I feel like, and that was another one that looked pretty bad. So
you guys buried the lead anyways with Philly. Dude, homeboy's reading a book on the sideline. That's the story of the weekend. Dude sitting there reading a freaking book. I've seen
it just makes me hate AJ Brown even more.
I've seen a lot of things in my sports life. I've never seen a dude just read a book.
What was the name of the book again? They said like something excellent.
Which is now, I think it is catapulted to number one.
I guarantee he sold a ton. He should have got
the Amazon bestseller list. The
has to be.
There was a Philly news station that opened their program up with both of them reading the book. And I think it underscores what's going on in Philadelphia because there were some stories probably about a month back where Sirianni had to be held back from one of the defensive players. These are guys, and you see this, right? We've read about championship teams in the past, New York Mets in '86, other teams where not everybody got along. It doesn't look like everybody gets along on this Philadelphia team, but when they get on the field, the results, at least for most of the season, have been positive.
The Philadelphia team, like the talent that team has is really good, like really good. And people should not take anything like downgrading the Eagles because they couldn't really move the ball on the Packers. Because that Packers defense, if you watch Packer games, that's about how they go, JT. The offense is kind of completely hit or miss. One half is bad, one half is okay. But Josh Jacobs is really good the whole time. He plays hard. And the defense, most games, does that to a lot of teams. So like that's kind of par for the course with the Packers team. That's kind of what you get most of the time. So I wouldn't downgrade the Eagles though, just because offensively they had, kind of a tough game.
Eagles is Jalen Hurts legitimately sucks. Like he legitimately sucks.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing. Those guys couldn't get open again. That Packers secondary, a lot of those sacks. Because if you're just looking at the stats afterwards and you're not watching that game, you're not realizing when you see a bunch of sacks, they were coverage sacks, almost all of them. And you want to know why? Because they were trying to keep him kind of in the pocket. They weren't trying to over rush, because whenever they would rush, too far out, there'd be open lanes for Jalen Hurts to run through. So it's the same thing with Josh Allen. And I said this to you about the Broncos. I said they're going to be so worried about keeping him in the pocket, they're not going to get actual pressure on Josh Allen to sack him, because they're just so worried about him running. And that was the case. But the problem with that is, when you're so worried about that, like the Tampa with Jaden, they were worried about him rolling out to his right, or what was it Todd Bowles was saying, like my right, his left, whatever he was saying in the second half thing. But when you're so worried about that, other things open up for these teams. And for the Bills, I talked about it with James Cook, and I'm so mad I didn't play him, because I just never play him. He always gets there in those spots, and it made sense that he had a good day, because they were so worried about Josh Allen. The Bills dominated them up front with the running game. And I don't think people, including myself, who love the Bills, I didn't even see them dominating the line of scrimmage like that against Denver. But now that I watch the game, it does make sense to me kind of why there was that mismatch and stuff. And they were bringing that extra lineman in, kind of copying a little bit of the Lions in some ways with that extra lineman. And they were having a ton of success running the football. We'll see if they can do it this week against the Ravens, who I think is another like super tough matchup for, a team like that, like running team. But I'm assuming, Tony, because I know you're the perfect person to ask, because I know you like the Broncos. I mean, there's no way you saw James Cook in the running game having that much success, right?
No, I mean, I don't like James Cook. I thought they would have to run it a little bit. I don't know. The game,
that's not what I asked, though. I said there's no way you thought they'd have success running like that.
Yeah, I mean, they dominated both sides of the ball up front. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that. Even though I like Denver, like I didn't leave that game that much more impressed with Buffalo, though. Denver was just so limited on offense. Buffalo, I know this, like JT talked about the Baltimore game. I feel like the Buffalo score is a little misleading too. They would have covered either way. I'm not saying they wouldn't. But like the touchdown where the dude's foot's like falling out of bounds on 4th down, and then the broken play at the end and all that. Like, I mean,
what about the multiple times they settled for field goals after penalties and
they weren't doing nothing on offense? Like, they didn't do anything.
The Bills game could have legitimately been 48-7.
Yeah, they dominated. I didn't say they didn't dominate, but they didn't. Like, I didn't leave. Like, I was impressed with how physical they were. I was more Denver just didn't do anything. Like, they stunk. They were limited.
Very conservative game plan.
So it was like more like downgrading Denver than it was like upgrading the Bills.
I'm not saying Buffalo. Like, I didn't leave like Buffalo stunk. It was just a game. They just got in there, got their kind of like Baltimore. They both just got the job done. They covered. They won easy. It was never in doubt.
Yeah, that was the Baltimore game too. I guess.
I'm not saying Buffalo wasn't 10 times better. They could have won 58-7.
You know what it was? That. I'll tell you why I thought the Bills game, it just looked so much more of a mismatch. And maybe this is just in my head, but the way they were dominating, it wasn't big plays a lot of the time. It was just like they were just positive game. They do drives where they take 8 minutes off the clock, and you're like, that is annoying. That is destroying like the mindsets of probably those Denver guys when they're sitting on the sideline watching that offense, just 8 minute drives, and they're just doing it every single time. And I think that's the difference between the Ravens and the Bills when I watch them is the Ravens, Derrick Henry had these big plays and Lamar would have these great plays. It looked more like fun, right? But the Bills were just more like, in my head, dominating. I don't know why. And I picked the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl and win. So I bet that. I hope that's what happens. But I'm just saying, I feel like the Bills had the most dominating performance because of that.
The Bills were methodical. They got Denver gets a win on the first drive for the Bills, holding them to a field goal. But they did run a bunch of time off the clock, and that continued to be a theme the rest of the game. Now, next week we get the Bills and the Ravens, a matchup that the Ravens dominated midway through the season. I think the final score there was 35-10. So, but we get this game tonight. Minnesota, the Rams Rams win in the regular season. Game is in Arizona, 47.5 total. 2.5-point favorites are the Vikings, JSU, which I guess we saw, of course, the Chargers were favorites on the road, opened up at 3, 2.5, moved back and forth there. Now we get the Vikings, and for a defense that started off the season looking like they were going to be very good, they've had some holes down the stretch. This is a team that has been scored upon. And with the Rams, their defense has looked good and bad at different parts of the season. We start here with the quarterback position, Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, of course, coming way, way back to earth in that matchup against the Lions. JSU, will start with you. What are you thinking about here with Stafford and Darnold? Stafford, 9K on the Showdown slate. Darnold, 9,600.
Yeah. First off, I remember this game so vividly because Tony, I don't know if you remember this, but this was one of the few games. I think we were on playback and we were talking about the Showdown slate. I don't know if you remember. This was the game where I was like, we were talking and I was like, there's no way Matthew Stafford's going to be the winner at captain in the quarterback. And I gave the Josh Oliver first touchdown bet. I don't know if you remember that too.
I remember that,
This was that game. And Matthew Stafford was the winner in the Showdown slate at quarterback. He was the captain winner, I'm pretty sure. I think he put up like 25. He had 4 touchdowns. And,
Two of them to DeMarcus Robinson, I think. This was the game where
they were. It was 2 to DeMarcus Robinson. It was also the game that Puka came back and only played half the game. So he crushed. When you look at his stats, he crushed. He also only played half that game. So, take that for what, or half the snaps. I don't, half the game, half the snaps. So, I remember this game. I really liked the Rams. That game was in LA too, I think. They won 30-20. And one other thing I remember too was they were one of the few teams this year that actually ran the football pretty well against the Vikings. And when I watch that game and I think about the Vikings, I was like thinking, and I'm like, okay, the Vikings run defense. I just saw Detroit run all over them, but Detroit's got one of the best running games in football. They got a tough offensive line. Jahmyr Gibbs is an awesome running back. I don't ding them too much for that. But is their run defense more a product of, in a lot of games, they've gotten up on teams and then teams go away from the run? Because when I watched the Rams game, their game plan, it felt like, was jamming Kyren Williams and running the football. And they did a decent job, but they never went away from it. Like even when, they'd have a negative play, they never went away from the run. Kyren ran for 23 carries that game. He had 97 yards. And I was just thinking back, I'm like, that's the one thing with the Rams. Like even when they're having passing success, they don't go away from the run. And I feel like you need that with Minnesota to beat Minnesota. The teams that have beaten Minnesota, Lions, Rams, they've been able to run the football. I think that's key. I think this Rams team can run the football on the Vikings, and I think that's going to open up big plays. It's why Matthew Stafford had a big game and some big plays against this team last time. It's why I think he has success again this time. If they can run the football, which I think they can, that's going to open up plays down the field. And, I like the Rams, obviously. Anyone who's watched any of our other shows, the Print Factory show on Friday, I'm a big Rams guy. I bet the Rams today. And it's a lot because I think that's going to happen on offense, but also I think their defense has improved, like you said, JT, throughout the year. I think their secondary, there's still some issues with the secondary, but up front, I think they have a decent pass rush that can kind of help out the secondary. Obviously, if they can get to the quarterback a little quicker, that's going to help the secondary out. So, I like the Rams here. I think they're a good bet. I'm going to be heavier on the Rams side just because, I do think they win and I do think their offense is good. So guys like Kyren, Puka, Stafford, those are the guys I'm kind of looking at the captain's position here. And I'm going to be heavier, at least 3 Rams, probably, 4 in some builds too, 3 to 4 Rams on most of my builds. I won't do 5 ones because I don't think it's like I don't think it's a lopsided, I don't think it's the Ravens Steelers or the Bills, Broncos type of a game. I do think there's a little back and forth here, but team that's able to run the football and control the ball, which I think the Rams are going to be able to do, is the team that's going to win. And so I have more faith kind of in McVay in their offense, honestly. Sam Darnold's been really good, but first playoff game away, even though it stinks that both these teams are technically away. I'm going to go with the Rams here.
Uncle T is in the chat. Happy New Year to Uncle T. He is fired up today as well. Talking about me reading a book on the workbench, which was insulting and offensive. Of course.
Imagine JT reading a book.
Of course, when I'm engaged in that activity, it's full dominance and full attention on the target, my prey, as I like to say, as I often call my wife. Big T, we got people in here that are taking the other side, which is what we want to see, the lively debate. Big T, thoughts here at the quarterback position, Stafford and Sam Darnold. Can Sam Darnold look like he has in some of his better games this season? Or are we going to see what we saw last week, which is when the lights are brightest, he's at his worst?
Man, he looked so bad last week, too. Detroit just absolutely found his weak spot, getting pressure on him. He started seeing ghosts again. It was tough. The name of this slate tonight, though, is just going to be value. There's just no value. So you got studs at the top that everyone's going to want to play, including quarterbacks. And I see it. I remember the three of us did a Showdown show earlier in the year, too, where I said it could be two cheapies. It was the Dallas game because JT made fun of me about the bum fullback that was on the winner with 1 point. But when you have this many studs, and especially the Rams, who don't really have that many guys they go to, they got good guys, but not that many cheaper guys that even get any volume. I think it's going to be a slate where you could see two cheap guys again that don't even score on the winner just because of how good the studs are. But I say all that to lead into the quarterback, where it's going to be hard for me to play Stafford tonight just based on the other guys in the game, where you got the Rams guys, obviously Puka, Kyron, Kupp. You got Jefferson. You got a lot of guys that you're going to want to play. Aaron Jones is a really good play. You got a lot of guys. And Stafford, even though he was the winning captain, he still needed 4 touchdowns to get there. It's just really hard for me to play him over even Darnold, because I think it's going to be hard to play both quarterbacks in this spot. It is just, there's just not enough salary unless you're not playing guys like Puka and Kyron. And the thing is, Kyron's not coming off the field. Puka's healthy now. Like, these guys, their floors are huge. So you're going to have to make decisions. I'm lower on quarterback tonight, though, even though it seems crazy in a somewhat good offensive type game. I really don't like Stafford much. His projection's even low, but it's more to do with just roster construction, though. I'm definitely ranking Puka and Kyron over Stafford. So if he's my third favorite Rams guy, either I think the Rams dominate, which I don't. I think it's a close game. I think this game's close either way. So if he's my third favorite Rams guy, it's really tough. So to summarize overall quarterback, though, I definitely like Darnold more. And I think you can have some builds without either one of them, though, and I don't usually say that.
Stafford, of course, in order to be optimal, in order to get into the optimal captain, he's going to have to throw those touchdowns because there's no rushing upside. You're not going to see him running the ball a lot. You're not going to see him having success. Garrett Wright wants to know, if you play Puka and Kupp on the same team, can you fade Stafford? We'll talk more about Cooper Kupp when we get to the wide receiver position and what's gone on with him the last half of the season. But thoughts there on, if you have 2 receivers from the Rams, Tony, are you comfortable fading Stafford fully?
If I played both of them together, which I won't be tonight for the same reasons I just said, but if I did, I would definitely play Stafford with them, just the way, and I'd fade Kyron, and I'd just go that route. You can do it. I'm not going to personally do it, because when we get to, I'll save it for receiver, my thoughts, but I just like Puka a lot more than Cooper Kupp.
All right. Well, and keep in mind too, this is something that we said a lot this weekend. There's no value. There's no value.
No
There's
value.
no value. Well, Saturday, Van Jefferson is on the winner. George Pickens is on the winner. Yesterday, De'Ami Brown and Curtis Samuel are on the winner. Jahan Dotson gets into the box, right? We'll talk more about this when we talk about wide receiver and some of the themes that at least I'm seeing over the course of the first weekend here that maybe leads you or should lead you to consider upping the percentages of some of these fringe guys that we wouldn't ordinarily want, particularly on a full slate. But we got to talk about running back too, Big T. Kyren Williams, of course, the bell cow for the Los Angeles Rams. Even in week 18, when we were told that it was going to be the Blake Corum show, it wasn't the Blake Corum show. It's never been the Blake Corum show. I think it's Kyren Williams or nobody on the Rams side. But on the Vikings side, there's some speculation that Aaron Jones hasn't been healthy. Cam Akers was questionable, but is expected to play tonight. You got CJ Ham, I guess, who gets a couple of snaps. This is a tougher thing to decipher on the side of the Vikings, particularly since the Rams' run defense has been pretty good all season long. Outside of Kyren Williams, who I assume you're going to have interest in, what are your thoughts on the Vikings side of the ball in the running game?
Yeah, you saw it yesterday. You guys talked about it a little bit on the 3-gamer, but those running backs weren't amazing yesterday. Well, Cook was amazing. Cook was really good with 20-something, but those other guys ended up being good enough. Like JSU said, Saquon wasn't great, but he was good enough. Everybody really, I want to say, I was going to say AJ Dillon, but Jacobs,
if you look at it, Jacobs was, I think he tied with Cook.
They had 21 apiece, I think. Both of them had
so
21. So
he was the low-owned guy that people were like, I don't really want to play him because of the Eagles' defense. But then I think JSU, you had him in your core, and I looked at it and I said the thought process has to be Jordan Love's got a banged-up hand. This is going to be the entire offense. And sure enough, it was.
So my thought process in that team, on my main team, which did cash on all my stuff. I actually had Saquon and Josh Jacobs together. And my whole thought process behind it was, I think it's going to be low scoring. I think, the Packers and the Eagles defenses are, I think so highly of those two defenses, because I think they are actually two of the top, like probably 3 defenses in the entire NFL. I was like, these running backs are going to get fed. Like, you know what I mean? In a low scoring game, I just saw 20 plus touches for both of them. And how do I get away from that? Now, obviously I didn't see the Eagles getting, I thought they'd move the ball a little bit more and then, get stalled out a little bit more. But still, that was my thought process behind it, was how am I fading these running backs that are getting 20 plus touches in this type of game environment that I think. So I just went with the volume, JT, over those wide receiver studs that I didn't really love. Going back to it in hindsight, maybe I should have played some Mike Evans because I did game stack that game, but I liked my team. You know what I mean? McMillan didn't get there, but I had the 2 cheap Washington guys. Diami was one of them, obviously. Olami didn't do a ton, but it worked out enough because I had those 3 running backs that scored me 16 to 21 fantasy points. So that was kind of my thought process, though, was Jacobs was, in my opinion, the volume was going to be the highest for someone like Josh Jacobs, because the Packers got no Christian Watson. Their offense has been so hit or miss passing. It was Jacobs all the way, and if he doesn't get hurt, JT, he's got more than 21 fantasy points because he got hurt when they were driving. Then they got stuffed on that 3rd down play, which put him to 4th down where the guy couldn't get his toes down. And if that was Romeo Doubs in the game and not, I think it was Bo Milton or Malik Heath, whoever caught that pass, Romeo Doubs gets his toes down. You know what I mean? Like, that's just that's a fact. I don't care what anyone says. Like, that's a fact. And then they probably drive down and score. It might mean nothing because the Eagles probably still win that game. But from a fantasy standpoint, Josh Jacobs could have had a much bigger day. Getting hurt at the end definitely hurt him. But so.
Fair points there. Ultimately, he did very well. And he was tied with Cook right about there for the highest scoring running backs on the day. Tony, back to you. Thoughts here on the Minnesota running game?
Yeah. So one of the good things of playing Kyren is exactly what you guys were saying. He's going to be on the field the whole game. You just get so much volume. It's tough. Whenever the Rams play Showdown, I always want to play Kyren and I always want to play Puka no matter what, because they're always going to end up in the winner if they don't get injured. It's just, there's just so much volume. So you're going to get 15, 16, 17 floor, and you have a ceiling on top of it. The Minnesota side, though, I tend to agree with JT a little bit. Last week was a must-win. They're playing for the 1 seed. Cam Akers got a decent amount of run in that game, and he looked pretty good, if I'm being honest. I'm not a Cam Akers guy, but he looked pretty good, which leads me to just enough speculation to take me off Aaron Jones a little bit. But the scary part is he's good enough where if you're playing 3-4 teams, he could be a captain on a team too, because he does have the capability of going off here in this, because Minnesota's offense is super condensed too. They don't have, like, if you guaranteed me Aaron Jones was getting all the work, I would love him tonight. If you guaranteed me Cam Akers was going to play 40%, I would love him tonight. It's just a matter of, we know what we're getting for the Rams. 100% I know what the Rams are doing tonight. And that's a luxury. It's like the Showdown secret to Showdown. When you know what a team's going to do, doesn't mean you're going to win, but it gives you a chance to pinpoint some stuff. And then, like JT said, throw some darts across those cheap scrubs, and maybe Oliver score. What do we call him? Oliveira, or whatever we called him the last time on the show.
Josh Oliveira.
Yeah, I mean, throw some darts. So for me, I'm definitely high on Kyren. And Aaron Jones, Akers, I'm up in the air, but I'm open to it. I'm definitely open to it.
JSU, Lee Price says it's that Aaron Jones price that lures me in, but I don't want to do it. Is it a trap? That's, I guess, what we're talking about here. Is this Jones price a trap? Because in no way should a starting running back who's going to get the bulk of the volume be this low on a Showdown slate. But I don't think it's as clear cut as it seems.
Yeah, I struggle with Aaron Jones in the last 2 games. And remember, the last game, like these, the last game was for the division, the 1 seed. He got 10 carries. Now, obviously, they got pounded, so maybe that played into it a little bit. 5 or 6, 15 touches. It just felt to me like Cam Akers not only looked better, but they liked them. And every time he got on the field, I was like, oh, he made a play. Like, and it's felt like that to me for the past couple weeks when he's played. Now, I don't know if that means anything. They could be also like, hey, listen, we know we're getting to the playoffs. We want Aaron Jones in the playoffs. That's why we signed him. And they could, unleash him, and he could be the
1 seed, though.
I know. Yeah. I'm with you, because I
couldn't have been resting him. I think we're on to the right. The more I think about it, even listening to you talk, Akers, because we need salary savings someplace too. I think Akers could be a nice leverage play.
Akers is like one of my highest guys in playoff best ball, because you could always get him at the end of drafts, because he'd go like almost undrafted. It was like him, Ty Johnson were like my 2 highest owned running backs, because you could always get them
right now. Ty,
the Ty. By the way, Ty Johnson, anytime touchdown, I put that on the site, plus 500, bang, yesterday, if you bet that on the site. Nice little anytime touchdown. But I think that Cam Akers could outplay him to the point where he gets more run later in this game. It's annoying that he's got an illness or whatever, like he's expected to play. Yeah. But I'm kind of with Tony. Like, I think I'm going to probably fade Jones and play some Akers in hopes that, if he does play better, they just stick with the hot hand. And Aaron Jones always gets nicked up. I know we don't like to talk about injuries, but he is one of those guys that every time I play him, I swear to God, even when he looks good, something, and he's coming on the sideline, gimping with an injury. I just can't do it with Aaron Jones. I also think that I have to play Kyren and Puka because their volume is just going to be so high. Like, the Rams are going to scheme for their main guys to get the ball. Like, their 2 top weapons to get the football, Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua. Kyron's going to get 20-plus touches in the running game, and Puka's going to probably get 8 to 10 targets in the passing game. I just can't fade that with those two guys. So immediately those two guys go in no matter what on my teams, whether it's in the captain or the flex. And I'm going to need some salary. And so, like, if I can find some salary on the other side with the Vikings, that's where I want to go, because those are the first two guys I'm putting in my lineup.
All right, fair enough on the running back position. We'll stick with you, JSU. I want to talk about these wide receivers. Obviously, on the Viking side, it's Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Addison coming on. I mean, this is no longer you play Justin Jefferson no matter what, because Addison has had big games where Jefferson has taken a seat to some respect behind his opportunity. What's happened with the Rams that we've seen is, of course, Puka Nacua, clearly the lead number one wide receiver, but Cooper Kupp still capable of big games. But here's something that we've seen all weekend long, which is a lot of the defensive attention has been on these number 1 and 2 wide receivers. And I think that's what's allowed guys like Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, Jahan Dotson, even Van Jefferson. These are the guys that are scoring. Remember, the play calling, the number of plays, even in that 50 total last night, we saw fewer plays than you saw in that first game of the season between the Buccaneers and the Commanders, because of how they play these games. And we saw it. We talked about it. The Ravens game, talked about it with the Bills game. You see coaches that are willing to start to run the clock down in the first quarter. They're willing to play out until 4-3-2 before that snap. And that means the game is shorter, right? It plays shorter in terms of play volume, which means some of these cheaper wide receivers are more valuable. You mentioned Puka's going in your lineups. What are you doing with Cooper Kupp? What are you looking at on the Vikings side? And what do you think about the DeMarcus Robinsons, the Jalen Naylors that are cheap, that may or may not have an opportunity, but could let you put together a stronger lineup?
Yeah, first off, Mike B, you probably haven't built the lineup yet, but why can't you play Puka, Kyron, and Jefferson? Is that not allowed? Am I not allowed to play Jefferson if I play Puka? And Tony, am I not allowed to play Justin Jefferson if I play Puka and Kyron?
It's why people will never have the build with a team that just plays a bum. Yeah, they hate playing a guy that's going to get 0.
I don't even need to play a guy I don't even need to play a guy who's going to get a 0 to play those 3. That's how actually terrible the question. I don't need to play a 0 guy. I can play 3 guys that are going to get run, like real run.
Yep.
You can play 3 studs easily on the slate. Easily. And that's with the stud in the captain. You can play 3 studs. That's not with a value or a mid-tier captain either. So you don't need a $200 guy to just play 3 studs. Now, if you want to play 4, that's when Tony's talking about you might have to dive down into one of these, maybe like a Sherfield or something like that. And who knows too with these guys? Maybe, Jalen Naylor gets nicked up and Sherfield's or Brandon Powell's got to play or something like that. Like,
you're talking about all the heroes. Those are the legends right there that you're talking about. I can't wait to play them.
Yeah. Those are the good. It's the same thing with Tutu or something like that. Like, if one of those Rams guys gets hurt, like
Tutu is way more expensive though.
That's the problem.
He is way up in there.
I was more just using the point, he's next guy up type thing, to where he can.
I can't even afford Tutu on my teams. He's too expensive.
Fair enough. It probably goes back to the point though, with Minnesota's probably the better cheap team in general, I think. But either way, I'm probably not going to get too much Kupp just because of his price. And I don't know about you guys, but I have the quarterbacks over Kupp. I have Stafford over Kupp. So
Kupp might end up insanely low owned.
That's the only problem with it. And you know what? He is the type of receiver that could actually give Minnesota issues. Those type of receivers, the inside type. The problem is Puka is just so damn good. I just don't see how he doesn't crush. And can I play both these guys together? Unless I'm playing Matthew Stafford and the captain, I'm probably not going to. So it's just going to lead me to the fade. So like the top guys that I'm lower on are definitely Kupp, Aaron Jones, and probably it's either Sam Darnold or Stafford. And I think this is going to be the one difference between it's just going to depend on my builds. Like if I have Kyron captain, I probably will be lower on Stafford in those builds. But if I play like Puka I'm going to probably play Stafford in my Puka captain build. So I might push Stafford up slightly ahead of Sam Darnold, but just slightly. Just for ranking purposes, though, that's how I would have the top tier.
What about the Minnesota side, right? Justin Jefferson, 11K. You've got Addison sitting there at 7K. And then, of course, Naylor. And, then you get to the $200 guys, JSU. What are your thoughts on Minnesota guys?
Yeah, and by the way, too, I remember the people in the chat that said Diami Brown sucks, baby. So I remember those people because there was a few of them talking shit about Diami Brown. And I don't know if anyone saw, but there was this nice little video of me using the Madden truck stick with Diami Brown, but it was actually real life, and he was trucking dudes in real life. So I enjoyed that. I replayed that video a bunch of times. I retweeted it. Tony, you see Diami Brown truck someone?
He gave it the too small. I always noticed the too small.
Oh, I didn't even go into the too small. Yeah,
that was the too small right after.
I was terrified he was getting a flag because the ref was like right there, and he did it, and the ref was right there, and I was like, oh my God, please don't flag him for this. It's so good. Trucked him and gave him the small.
You truck a guy like that, you got to be able to give the too small. That's a rule.
Joe Ruff, I said Diami Brown sucked. LOL, hands up. I love you, Joe. At least you're honest. I appreciate the honesty. But the Minnesota wide receivers you asked about, it's just going to come down to roster construction for me. I mean, Jalen Naylor at his price, he is going to fit some builds just because I'm going to need some cheap guys. So I expect me to be higher on him. When it comes to like Jefferson and Addison, it's more just about the builds and who I'm going for at the top. Obviously, we all prefer Justin Jefferson, but he's also, what is he right now? He's 11K, and Jordan Addison is 7K. So that's a massive difference. Now, that might, I don't know, Tony, will that hold Justin Jefferson's ownership somewhat in check that all of the Vikings' other pieces are kind of cheaper? Like TJ's 5,600. Addison's
projections, though. It's always projections. His projection's huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, then I might be more on like the Addison train just because of that. Then I'll flip it and go more like the Addison Naylor range, just because of that. If everyone's gonna jam Justin Jefferson at that price tag, which I get, why can't Jordan? We've seen Jordan Addison have multiple touchdown games. I mean, why can't it be Jordan Addison? And Sam Darnold's one of those quarterbacks too. He is not necessarily just going to lock in on one guy the whole game. He is going to look to whoever has the better matchup, whoever's like, it's not going to be just the spot where he's just peppering one guy. It's not going to be all Justin Jefferson. These other receivers are talented. Like Jordan Addison is super talented as a wide receiver. He's not Justin Jefferson, but he's really, really good. So, yeah, I mean, it's just going to come down to how my builds are. It's not like the Rams either, JT, where I'm like, I need Kyron and Puka on the Ram. I don't feel like I feel like I need one. So that might be a rule, right? I want at least one of these Vikings receivers, max two, unless I have Sam Darnold at the captain spot, obviously, which I probably won't play. So that's kind of my feeling. And I have a feeling when I run my teams, I'm going to get a little bit more Addison or Naylor just because of the price and the fact I think I'm a little higher on Stafford than you guys are in general.
Big T, thoughts here on the Minnesota receiving core, really the main three guys. It's really a main of two, Jefferson, Addison. Then you do have Jalen Naylor who get involved. You do have the 200 guys that you were referencing, Sherfield and Powell. Looks like they're on the field for about 8 to 10% of plays normally. So not a ton of volume there, but what are your thoughts with the Minnesota receivers? And then, of course, your thoughts on the Rams side as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know I keep saying it, but these are the slates where I just think people misplay the showdown, and you just can get so many points from these studs that it doesn't matter what your cheap guys do. And when your cheap guys somehow house one, that's when you win all the money. When they don't and they get zero, then you cash and you make some money, you have a good night. But your floors are just so huge when you play these studs. Just say you were to play Puka, Kyren, Jefferson, and Darnold. 4 studs, which is kind of my idea right now. Maybe not those exact 4, but something like that. You'll have to play like a Jordan Whittington and a Brandon Powell or something. You're probably going to get a 0 most of the time from Brandon Powell. But what happens when Josh Naylor rolls an ankle or somebody else gets hurt early in the game? Or what happens when they just catch a touchdown like JT was saying yesterday with Van Jefferson and all the bums that caught touchdowns yesterday? There's nothing that says that can't happen. And the bigger issue, too, is you got guys like Cooper Kupp that are just literally unplayable. So you're going to have 30% play Cooper Kupp. I think it'll be lower than that, but say 20% even. 20% Cooper Kupp. I mean, that 20% is dead, in my opinion. If you play, you can't, he's 9,400. You cannot play that with how he's played this year, unless you're just trying to be contrarian, which is fine in Showdown, but I personally don't see it. And I'm somewhat in that on Jordan Addison too, so I might be a little different there. His projection's just so much lower than Jefferson, and it's not that much higher than like some of the like Hawkinson and kickers and stuff, where I think that's the dead range for me, like the 7,000 range. I want studs, I want cheapies, and then I want maybe like, because I think like DeMarcus Robinson and Jalen Naylor's not good, but he catches touchdowns. So DeMarcus Robinson can catch touchdowns. So I think I'm more in that range than the Jordan Addison and Cooper Kupp. So I'm going to be off of those guys almost completely. But again, I just want to harp on it. I think it's the studs, and I'm okay taking 2 zeros tonight. 1 0 for sure. And I'm talking like Brandon Powell's projected for 0. Like he's projected for 0.3. So like, I am planning to take a 0 basically from these guys, and I'm okay with it. I will not be surprised one bit if when we recap this show, there's a 0 in the winner tonight. 1 0. And then another guy that gets like 6. Like,
tell the people, though, for those who are using optimizers, because oftentimes when I'm trying to get someone like that into my lineup, I got to give them a better projection. How are you getting these guys into your lineup?
This is how I've always found, and this is why I think Showdown's always been a good format for me. And one way people always want to know how to get different. When you're using like SaberSim, I think the key way to do it is just put rules in where I say I want 4 of the studs and put them in there. Puka, Jefferson, whoever you want, Kyren, the quarterbacks. So right away you got 5 right there. You can even throw Addison in there if you like him. All the like expensive guys, throw them in and say, I want 4 of those guys, no matter what. So it forces them in there. Or you can do it too, where like say today's terrible value, but on slates where the value is a little better, just put, I want 2 value guys and then include some of the scrubs in there, but force it to do it, because what JT's saying is like Brandon Powell is really hard to get unless you project him for, give him like 4 or 5, or which he's not. I mean, you can't project him that high except to force him in there anyways. So I just like to do it with rules. And honestly, tonight I'll do it by teams. Like, so I'll put Puka, Kyren, Stafford, and Kupp in one, and I'll say I want 2 or 3 of those guys, 2 of those guys in this example. And then the Minnesota guys, the running backs, all the good guys, I'll say I want 2 of those guys. Because honestly, I want 2 from each side tonight. So that's 4 studs right there in some form or another. It's just going to make me play those cheap guys by forcing it. And if you don't, it's just naturally going to give you the nailers and the kickers and the mid-range. It's going to force it to where it only gives you 3 studs. But what's Josh say? So will your payout. What's that mean?
I'm not sure what that means. Kevin Saul says everyone was, I don't know who everyone is, dying to play, because I haven't been dying to play one of these Packers receivers. Everyone was dying to play Jaden Reed 2 weeks ago versus the Vikings, because that's how you beat Minnesota from the slot. Nobody wants to play Kupp. Okay, let's break this down. Kupp last 3 games before week 18, 3 targets a game. All right. There's something else going on there, you would think, right? He's not normally going to get 3 targets a game unless maybe he's out there to be a decoy. Then playing from the slot. Well, Puka can play the slot. Can't Puka play the slot? I mean, you've got Tutu Atwell, you've got Robinson. I just don't know if there's enough there in that thought process to say, oh, it's going to have to be Cooper Kupp when it hasn't been really since week 6 of the season.
Well, and Puka was hurt.
Yes. And when Puka was hurt, you saw that there was a greater reliance on Kyren. Those were Kyren's massive games. DeMarcus Robinson had, I think, more than 2 touchdown games. They have not relied on Cooper Kupp at all this season.
I think Cooper Kupp is the biggest gift to DFS that you can have because people still remember how good he was. And they always say the same thing. He's the pivot off of Puka. He's the pivot off of Kyren and these guys. And they always want to talk themselves into it. And he's 9,400. It's literally the worst. It's one of the worst plays I've seen all season.
Okay. Are you done talking about the wide receiver position?
I mean, I'm definitely going to roll the dice on the cheap shitters. And I'm confident. Like, if you gave me a bet that one of these cheap shitters scores, again, I'm not promising which one it's going to be. But if you, said, I'll give you 2-1 that one of these shitty guys scores that's 4K or less, I would take it. I think one of these guys scores. I don't know if I'm going to guess right which one it is, but I think one of them will. It could be our boy Oliveira again as we go into tight end.
IPT
JT, I got something real quick. I got so many things real quick because I've been sitting here silent, holding my tongue back.
Okay.
But a few things right here. First of all, both of you guys, I don't even think you guys realized it, which makes it even funnier. But both of you guys incorrectly said Jalen Naylor's name, but used different first names. So JT, I think, called him Josh, or no, Jordan, and Tony called him Josh because I think
that was at the beginning.
I think he had Josh Oliver on his mind, and I think he said
Oliveira.
Josh Naylor. So that was great. That was great. But then Tony, I mean, you're talking about the gift of gods of playing this, of not playing Cooper Kupp. You don't want a piece of low ownership. I mean, yesterday you were all on me for telling people
What was he
to just
owned?
fade the low owned Bo Nix.
What was he owned?
He was 13% in the Millie, 13% in the Wildcat.
And you talked about it for 20 straight minutes.
You hammered me for just all I said too, JT, for the record.
For 20 minutes, all you said.
Was just saying there's no way he's going to be on the optimal. There's so many better quarterbacks. Just literally fade the 3 shitty quarterbacks and only play the 3 good quarterbacks. That's all I said. That's all I said. I got hammered for, you can't make fun of him. He's low owned, blah, blah, blah. I'll just say the same thing. Tony's
it's Showdown.
In
it's not
Showdown,
even close to the same situation.
In Showdown, the opposite is the case. So on the 3-game main slate, when there's so many options at a position, I think the way I used it yesterday is correct, whereas Tony used it the opposite way and was incorrect in my opinion. This is Showdown, and where anything can happen in this one game, there's less options. This is where if you wanted to play the low-owned guy, I think you have a case because you don't have to get that over the field, and there's not as many people that can outscore him. So in theory, there's not 3 games, right? There's 1 game. That means there's only 4 good receivers on this slate, plus the quarterbacks, plus the 2 running. There's 7 or 8 options, right? Can he be one of the top 3 or 4 guys in Tony's scenario where he uses a $200 guy, 4 guys, or if you're not 3? Could he be one of those? I mean, it's possible. I agree in theory with Tony that it's probably not likely, but I just don't understand how on a 3-game slate you go for the low ownership guy, and on a 1-game slate where it makes even more sense to do it, you don't want to do it. I just don't get. Is it because he's a stud? Is it because he's expensive? Is that what it is? Because I'm honestly asking you the question.
Because Cooper Kupp's a pivot for everyone. He's 30% owned.
But you
Bo
said
Nix,
he's going to
no
be low
one's
owned.
playing. Huh?
But you said he's going to be low owned.
That is low owned in Showdown, 30%.
I agree with you. So why can't no one's playing Cooper Kupp?
He's
Why?
9,400. You can't play guys with him.
So it's the price tag. That's what I was
mean,
asking you.
And again, like Bo, I didn't play Bo Nix. Like I thought you could play any quarterback though. Like Russell Wilson was in the winner the day before. Like
Right, but Russell Wilson only had 3 other quarterbacks. We had this was my whole point, was there was just more options. There's less options here. That was my whole point.
You disagree with me, that's fine. Like I think Cooper Kupp's the worst play of the year. You can play him, that's fine.
Oh no.
I mean, I wasn't gonna play him. But
I said Mixon sucked every week. He had 1 week, so I give good takes every day, strong takes. Yes, Mixon went off 1 week. Congratulations, chat. My record's 48-2 in guarantees. That was one of the 2.
Are we getting a guarantee?
Yeah,
Are we getting...
100%. I'll put the guarantee on the line tonight because Cooper Kupp is a horrendous play. Like if you play Cooper Kupp, you should go out back and light it on fire.
I have seen this before. By
the way, too, with the slot thing that people were saying, oh, Cooper Kupp lines up in the slot. McVay moves everybody around. Like some games, DeMarcus Robinson's lining up in the damn slot. Like I don't know, Pujols. That was the best one.
Than Mixon, anyways. The Mixon one annoys me. The Pujols one makes me laugh.
Dude, the Pujols one, for some reason, Mixon's the legendary one that everyone remembers. The Pujols one was way better. It was way more long lasting. I mean, it was like
6 weeks of dominance.
Dominance.
After he said he's terrible.
Oh, it was so good.
Play Cooper Kupp, you got a tiny Packer.
Is a double dong in baseball the equivalent to like 4 touchdowns?
I think that's what we're seeing from Cooper Kupp.
Pujols hit like 38 bombs in a month that month.
No, he was on fire. Yeah. That was the craziest shit.
All right.
Do it, T-Ron. Do it. Do it, big boy.
That's right.
Cooper
That's how
Kupp,
it's done.
captain, baby. Cooper Kupp, captain for T-Ron.
We're gonna clip you.
Tony, you should do a quarter by quarter update on the Cooper Kupp captain builds. Yeah. Like every on Twitter, just for Tehran. Do the captain updates.
This is how this game is gonna go. We are gonna be in Discord when Kupp catches the first 3 passes out of the
See, this is what we try to do on this show here, is make someone's work day. If I can make one person's work day, it's worth it for me to argue with Big T and fight with Big T. It's just totally worth it. Even though we're totally fighting right now, and it's great, and I enjoy every second of it.
All right. Big T will stick with you at the tight end position. Now that we know that we're locking Cooper Kupp, we're looking at TJ Hawkinson. Look, Hawkinson has been the guy that, I guess, if you're looking at these tight ends and saying who is the guy that's most involved in the offense, I think you would say TJ Hawkinson. Higbee did get a bunch of targets last week. A little bit concerning that he played in week 18. Maybe that was just to get him some reps. He did get 7 targets, but that was a meaningless game. Then you've got the Olivers, the Parkinsons, the Munts, Hunter Long and Davis Allen, who people loved a few months back when Tyler Higbee was out. What are your leans here? You mentioned that Hawkinson was cheaper than Addison. Thoughts on the tight ends?
You said me, right?
Yes, sir.
I think tight ends are a good place tonight. I mean, Hawkinson has been a letdown for me. I'll be honest. Full disclosure, I've liked him a lot this year, and he really hasn't done much. He's a lot of weeks he's had really good spots too, where I'm like, Hawkinson is going to crush this week. And then I'm very confident about it. And then he gets like 8 fantasy points and I'm just disappointed. And his price tag is somewhat tough tonight with how I'm building at 5,600. I don't love it. Higbee's been bad for the most part too and injured, but the price tag's more in line with what I need tonight at that 3,000 price. And then we got our boys, Oliveira. I actually really like him again tonight at 1,600 just because I know he's at least going to get – he's not going to get a ton of volume, but the volume he gets is going to be good volume. Like around the goal line, he could come in, big plays, short yardage stuff. So I like him a lot down here. Colby Parkinson's been terrible. And again, a lot of these guys I'm talking about, I'm definitely not talking about getting us 15 points. I think it's going to come down to who gets 4 points down in here. Who catches one pass for 27 yards. I think that gets you in the winner tonight with the way I'm building. So Colby Parkinson at 1,200, I think is a great play tonight. And it's all slate dependent. Again, I at bare minimum, I want 3 studs tonight, but I probably want 4 personally. So to do that, I'm just going to have to play some of these guys that have a chance to get me 0. So Colby Parkinson, I love. And then you got these other 3, Hunter Long, Johnny Munt, and Davis Allen. I think they're all in play. I really do. And I'm going to leave them in my Saber Sim. I'm going to hope 1 or 2 of these guys somehow catches a touchdown or even just a pass or 2. I really think it comes down to who gets more than 0 at the bottom. Could be 1.5, could be 2.5. And the good part about this, too, it could be fourth quarter where there's just no cheap scoring. And whoever catches like that one pass or gets the one handoff somehow gets you into the winner. And I really think that's how it's going to play out tonight.
JSU, thoughts here on the tight end position? Hawkinson, even in the game
Hold on one sec, JT, because everybody keeps talking shit about Cup. If you're going to talk shit, you got to at least spell his name right. I mean, you can't spell it with a C, dude. You got to spell it right. It's messing with my OCD. I had to interrupt JT for it. You cannot mistype his friggin' name.
That will drive Tony up a wall.
That is what crosses the line?
I mean,
that will drive Tony
insane. Terrible.
Insane.
It's disrespectful. I might play Cup again now after how he spelled it that bad. It's disrespectful.
Do you know how bad this dude's OCD is, JT?
I'm finding out.
Oh my God!
No, I can't believe that, because there was one in the very beginning of Run Pure Sports. I sent around a guide for a show we were doing, and he was like, "What is this? What is this? What you got notes here?" I said, "Yes, I'm preparing whatever." He hated it. So
I don't know, because he is impromptu. He doesn't like get ready for, like, he just does it. It's all off the cuff with Tony. So yeah, there's no notes involved.
Trying to give these guys a script is what I was doing. I was trying to give a little script about things we're going to talk about.
Yeah, this is an unscripted show right here, people.
It is right here.
I've had guys in
it's my only note.
I've had guys in past things that refuse to go on with me without like a full plan. That's true stories. I've had that happen, and I still can't believe it. Like, we literally didn't do a show because there wasn't a plan.
I know some of these people.
Cooper Cups with the 2 P's.
JSU taught us about the tight end position, please. What are your favorites? Who are you letting in? Do you have a plan with the tight ends, or you're just going to see who fits?
By the way, shout out to Drew. Tony, I don't know if you've been in the NFL chat, but he made you a nice Big T 44 guarantee with your face on it and some dollar signs. And I need this on a t-shirt. So let's get Amber on it. Let's get it on a t-shirt. I want one. Please and thank you. I will wear it all the time on shows. So we need this. We need to sell it on the site.
I wish I could find a way to share this in here, because I like it.
I can share it. I will share it. I couldn't upload it because, Drew, it was too big of a file to upload into the StreamYard. I needed a smaller file, I guess, but I can present it at the end. We'll do it before he gives his play of the day. It'll be his Big T guarantee of the day.
What happens when I circle back and I'm like, Cooper Kupp's my play?
Dude, that'd be epic.
For the leverage.
It'll be epic.
If you're not watching, or if you're watching this and you're not in, this is the time. This time of day is Bobby Boom's time of day, where he's giving his guarantees. Saturday it was Herbert triples. It's a good time to just avoid this board. Just stay out of there. Last night he was convinced the Washington defense was going to score a pick 6. It didn't happen, but the Commanders did get the win. All right, JSU, talk to us about the tight ends. Then we're going to talk about kickers, defenses, captains. We're going to give a hot take other than Cooper Kupp is the worst play on the slate. Then we'll get out of here.
So the tight end position, TJ Hawkinson, I agree. Every time I watch him, it's kind of just been disappointing. And I remember the game that he had a big game it was against Chicago. He did all of it like kind of late in that game. It was very like kind of odd. I feel like he needs a trailing script as well. That's another thing I've noticed with TJ, and maybe it's just because like, when defenses are kind of sitting back a little bit more, he's getting those short passes, the volume. That's kind of what you need with TJ, because when they get down in that red zone, that end zone area, they're looking at Justin Jefferson, Addison, even Naylor, like Aaron Jones. Those are the guys. They're looking at their wide receivers. The tight ends don't get as much love down there. I don't know if also like maybe TJ Hawkinson coming back from that tough injury, maybe he's still working his way back a little bit, but something just feels off with them. He is cheaper though, which is nice. I don't feel like he's like overpriced. I feel like he's priced somewhat correctly. I don't mind him if I fall in that range. He's not like a core play, but I could see myself. I could see him fitting some builds, JT. So I don't have an issue with him, but I'm not playing him in like the captain. On the lower, like the cheaper guys, I agree with Tony. Like Josh Oliver is 1,600. I do think he would be like the other tight end you could consider. Again, I wish tight ends were like more involved with the offense, but he could catch a touchdown. It's not like he gets a ton of routes, but he gets enough where you could consider him here. And, if he gets double digits, he could be on the winner. So I do think you will need a touchdown for that to happen. But the other side, the Rams side, Tyler Higbee, I think is their main guy. He's 3K. I just don't love this spot for Tyler Higbee. But I just feel like tight end's like not the best here on this slate. But if these guys like fit my final piece or something like that, I'm going to play them. They're not guys that I really love though. Like when we get to the kicker, I definitely like the kickers a little bit more, in this range and stuff like that. But, Higbee's fine. I feel like there's not much separation. I don't feel like he's going to be a volume guy either when Puka and Cooper Kupp are in the game and playing. Obviously, when they're not, like last game, he's going to get more looks because, those guys aren't in the game. But when those guys are in the game, it's just going to be a lot of those two and Kyron. So, yeah, I'm not like super high on either of these guys.
All right, we'll stick with you for the kickers and the defenses. Will Reichard for Minnesota is 5K. Cardi for the Rams is 4,800. Cardi did break a slate earlier in the season, or was up, I think, 19 points against Miami. And then defenses, the Rams still sticking at 3,800. That may be a spot where you want to take advantage of whether or not Sam Darnold has some of the same issues that he's had in these big games. And then the Vikings at 4K. I personally think maybe some interest in the Rams, not as much on the Vikings side. What are your thoughts here, JSU?
Yeah, I definitely like kicker. I think I don't know if I'll play like double kicker. Probably not. I think it's probably max one. But it feels like the Minnesota kicker is probably my favorite of the two. It's also a little more expensive, but it's been more consistent. So I'll probably have some shares of him, with me being a little lower on Darnold, probably at the top. Kind of makes sense too to go with those builds. Maybe they stall out a little bit and have to kick a few more field goals. So yeah, I like him. On the defensive side too, I'm not one that loves playing defense on Showdown, but I think in this type of Showdown, if you're not doing the thing like Tony's doing, where you're going all the way down to $200 guys, you kind of have to have these defenses in play. I mean, priced fair enough, I think at 4K and 3,800. I could see there being turnovers. I kind of like the Rams D though. I think like everyone will like the Vikings over the Rams. I feel I'll probably have a little bit of the Rams D, a little less of the Vikings D. So it's probably the Rams over the Vikings for me from a defensive perspective, and the Vikings kicker over the Rams kicker if I had to make like a call on both those.
Big T, thoughts on the kickers and the defenses?
Yeah, this Minnesota kicker is good. I mean, he's got to be one of the most consistent kickers in football as far as fantasy points every week, double digits. I think if I do go mid-range today, I love the idea of going kicker just because, like I said, if I do go that route, I want more consistency through the middle pricing than more boom and bust. Because if I go boom or bust, I'm just going to play the studs, try to just throw darts at the cheap guys like I keep talking about. But if I only play 3 studs, the other build I would do, 3 studs, I would go maybe even both kickers, like just get the floor or a defense, like a kicker one way, defense the other way, and kind of go with that in the mid-range, and then you got a cheaper guy with it. So would you rather play 2 kickers or 2 specialties or a Hawkinson, throw him in there too, 2 mid-range guys, or would you rather play like a stud and a 200? And again, that's what I keep coming to, and I'm just like, I don't see how the 2 mid-rangers can beat my stud and 200 guy because I don't even need points from the 200 guy to beat it. So that's where I just keep landing. But I do love the kicker, so I'm going to let SaberSim definitely give me some builds with the kicker in it, especially Minnesota's Reichard. I mean, he's good. He's a good kicker. So I think the Vikings D kind of sucks. I'll be honest. I've watched them. I think they're kind of overrated. The last few weeks, they've got just dissected. It feels easy, too. So I'm more on the Rams D, Vikings kicker. But honestly, I'd be okay with the Rams kicker too, Cardi. I don't like him as much, but it's okay. I do like Reichard, though, a lot.
JSU, thoughts here, favorite captains? It seems like I guess the 2 guys that you're probably looking at are Puka and Kyron, a bunch for captains, but anywhere else that you're looking at that's going to be a large percentage of your pool?
Yeah, so those 2 guys, I think the 2 I'll take some shots on will be Jordan Addison and Demarcus Robinson's the other guy. Is another reason why I kind of don't love Cup. Like, I feel like these are just some of the spots where they might like have to look to him. He's going to get one-on-one coverage, and we know when they get near the end zone, like he is a throw the ball up and go get it type of a guy. And Stafford does love to do that when he gets down there, and D-Rob's a jump ball type of guy. So I think he could be someone who, gets a big play down the field or gets a touchdown or something like that. And he's cheap enough. It was kind of like the captain builds. I think Tony was talking about Cam Akers maybe when he was like, yeah, he's a cheap guy, and then you can jam all the studs. It's another way to kind of jam all the studs with it. So yeah, I think those are the 4 guys that I'm playing between right now. I'm not sure how like my ownership's going to shake out yet. I got to put up my 3 max content in a little bit after the show, but I definitely feel like I'm going to have Puka the most, probably then Kyron and D-Rob. And then if I have a 4th, it'd be Addison, but I'm going to be way heavier on the Rams captains for sure.
Big T, thoughts on the captain position? Seems like in those builds where you're going heavily on the more expensive players, those are the guys that you're going to have at captain.
Yeah, I'm 100% going Puka, Jefferson, Kyron. Maybe now those three are going to be where I'm at for sure. 100% those 3.
Maybe Cooper Kupp or no Cooper?
Yeah, throw Cooper in that mix.
All right, Guard, they already asked this question. We want to get to it anyway. Thoughts now on the is there an opportunity tonight for the King of the End Zone?
Yeah.
Is that something all right? So what do you guys think on the King of the End Zone?
Before we get to this real quick, just do you think you need to play both quarterbacks on FD? I don't, because I think there's routes where, like Kyron is in play over one of the quarterbacks or something like that. Or if you like Aaron Jones, so I don't think you need to play both quarterbacks, just to throw it out there. And Tony's talked about this before too, but there's so many good studs on this slate. I definitely don't feel like over on that. I don't feel like you need both guys. Probably one for me over there.
Well, one of the issues though with FanDuel, you probably haven't looked that much like I haven't, but the pricing is so low on the quarterbacks. Like Stafford's 12.5. So
yeah, but that means everyone's going to jam those quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah.
And so I like it even less. Like I might even play Kyron. That might be where I play my Kyron MVP.
Yeah.
And then play Darnold on the bring back or something like that with just one quarterback. Because if Kyron gets in the box like twice on the ground and Stafford doesn't have 4 touchdowns like he had last time, I don't know.
What about Danny Dimes at 5K?
No way you're playing Danny Dimes.
I'm just saying.
Wait. Big T, are we ready to do you want to give your the famous the old guarantee?
I mean, I already gave the guarantee. The guarantee's there. I
Wait,
said it was the worst play of the year.
whoa. Hold on.
Yeah.
Bang. Bang. Let's get it. Big T guarantee. There
Get
it
that
is.
thing off the screen. How long does it have to stay up there?
I don't know. It was so good. I wanted to make sure everyone saw it.
Cooper Kupp, worst play of the year. Guaranteed.
There we go. There we go.
King of the end zone. Talk to us about that.
I wanted to double check. So tonight we can 3-team it, right? We can 3 again.
Yeah.
I wanted to double. It says it for sure in the rules. Three. Yep. We can pick 3. So that's the cheat code we found yesterday. You don't have to, but the way I think you just have to play it is just do a single game touchdown parlay with 3 guys and stack it in there. So let's do one right now. Let's all pick a guy. Let's all pick one for our parlay. And for those of you that don't know, like we talked about yesterday, $2 million. Longest touchdown of the night, and he has to be in a bet you do on DraftKings for at least $5. You have to click the promo and everything, but you can pick 3 guys for the parlay. So there's no reason, in my opinion, when it's only $5 to not just put 3 in there. You might lose your $5. You probably will lose your $5, but you also get 3 guys for a chance at the $2 million. And let's all pick a guy. Should we pick like one like good guy as like backup and then 2 long shots, or should we just do 3 long shots?
I was thinking about this. It's like, remember, it's only one game too, so like all these guys are gonna get some, you know what I mean? Like they're all gonna get, and people just saw like Troy Franklin almost hit and Curtis Samuel hit. So I think it's gonna, definitely be something that people try and do, but I don't mind taking like one obvious guy and then like 2 long shot type of plays.
You're right, though. It's probably even worse to take a favorite, though, tonight. I mean, you know how many people on a 1-game slate are going to have these good guys? I mean, you're going to win like literally like you might lose money. It could be like 5 and you get $3 back or something.
Well, that's why I like in the bet doing first touchdown for one of them, like definitely. So you do first touchdown for one of them. So let's say you like, I don't know, what's a long shot, but let's say you like Jalen Naylor first touchdown, right? That's 30-1. Okay. So you go Jalen Naylor 30-1.
Love how you said his name properly.
I like D-Rob. Yeah, thank you.
Great,
thank you very
great
much.
pronunciation. Excellent.
Appreciate it. No one's actually ever said that to me before with my pronunciation, so I appreciate that, JT. That means a lot coming from you. So Jalen Naylor first touchdown, Demarcus Robinson anytime, and then give me one more like long shot, guys. Give me someone who's a long shot.
I mean, Stever said it in here, but I've been looking at not just snaps, but targets. Tutu Atwell has been getting 2 or 3 targets legitimately per game. And I
don't mind him because he can make a big play down the field. So like he's like Curtis Samuel did, like he could make that type of play. So, all right, so let's do that. Right. So that is, that's $5 will win us 7,500 right there. So I don't know, like, if you take the first scorer out and just put Jalen Naylor touchdown, what do we win? $5 will win 1,500. So if you just do it normal, like anytime touchdown, $5 will win you 1,500. If you do like the first touchdown with one of these guys, you're looking at 5, 6, 7 times that. I don't know, Tony. Do you have one? I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to do something like that, I think.
Yeah, I like the 2-2 call for the JT. I was looking at like the defenses too. I think give you a decent value tonight, even though we don't love the D's. I just think there's something to be said that not as many people will pick them, and like the most random plays happen when it's like a pick and an out pattern, and they just take it and go 70 or something. I think like based on the odds, even the best plays in a 3-teamer could be to pick your favorite touchdown. Like say 2-2. Say we think he's the best long shot. So do first touchdown 2-2. And then the other two just do anytime Rams and anytime Vikings. And then you got both defenses and both special teams for the longest of the night. I mean, if they return a punt or a kick or a pick down in there, you win. So a lot of people are still going to pick it. So you're not going to win 13 grand, but you're not going to win 13 grand anyways tonight. So I think my pick would be the defenses tonight. I think they're pretty. Now you can pick both. I got them in there, B-Nair.
Yeah, like I can do both defenses with one, like Demarcus Robinson, 2-2, Jalen Naylor.
B-Nair, you're wrong. I just bet.
Oh, you know what it is though? B-Nair's right.
Or something?
B-Nair's right if you do anytime touchdowns, B-Nair. But if you
I did do anytime and it worked.
You didn't do a first touchdown?
2-2 first.
Yeah. So that's the difference. If you do, here's the loophole.
Anytime,
so you do the defensive touchdowns anytime, and then you do a first touchdown. That you can do. You can't.
So we pick our offensive guy first, and then we do the defensive one anytime.
Yeah, but no, I bet you Beanair was just doing 3 anytime touchdowns with both defenses. That doesn't work. Now you can do 3 anytime touchdowns if you choose one defense, and then you pick 2 guys from the other team. That will work. So if you do the Rams defense anytime, and then you do 2 Vikings, that will work. Same thing with the opposite. If you do Vikings defense, you can do 2 Rams players anytime, and that will work.
My issue tonight, though, is I think the random touchdowns are short ones, and I think the studs score the longer
like
ones.
The Josh Oliver touchdowns, even
like
the Jalen Naylor touchdowns, I think they're shorter-ish touchdowns.
Yeah. I think the defense is tonight. That's what I'm going with. I'm going with the defense.
I like the defensive call.
I mean, how disappointing that he immediately backs down.
Like he knew it was wrong.
JT, to be fair, it took me a second to figure it out, and then I figured it out that it's first touchdown. It's not.
Don't offend him. He was wrong. He was trying to correct me, and B-Nair was wrong.
He's a beta.
He didn't realize you took first touchdown.
I said the exact bet.
I'm just telling you. So, B-Nair, I'm fighting for you right now, buddy.
Beta-Nair. We got a new name, at Beta-Nair. All right. All right. That cover everything, boys?
I think so. 2 zeros in the winner tonight, baby.
All right, 2 zeros in the winner. We got a couple of guarantees here.
Guaranteed.
Couple of guarantees here. Of course, everyone.
Cooper Kupp smashing.
You know he's going to have the longest touchdown tonight.
It's going to be Cooper Kupp.
First drive of the game, 80-yarder.
First drive, first snap. First snap. Vikings win the toss, defer. Boom, Cooper Kupp, 92-yard touchdown.
So before we get out of here, our boy IPT 007 shipped again. I think it was 20-something K in the Wildcat tournament, and wants to give back another 333 ticket to the old Wildcat. So he did ask if we could give one away. Got to be in the Discord. Tony, is there any way you want to do it specifically?
I kind of liked it the one time when we did that. Should we do that again? Like watch.
Yeah, do it again.
Okay, so
do it again.
333 ticket.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to be in the Discord.
I'm gonna tell them where to do it, but I gotta pick a perfect spot where we can tell. So everyone gets 1 second to get their Discord ready.
Yeah, good, because everyone needs a second.
Whoever posts it in there first gets the ticket, but
and you need to have obviously Venmo or PayPal, obviously. So
they gotta spell it correctly too in there. Cooper Kupp. guarantee. That's what you got to type in there.
Right now?
In the NASCAR chat. Go.
Oh, in the NASCAR chat. Oh, they're in the live
Who's
show
gonna
chat.
get it? Who's going to get it?
That's cool because some people don't have the NASCAR chat, do they? That's cruel.
They should all have it. Guarantee. Oh, where's it at? Cooper Cup guarantee. Slick Native. Slick Native got it.
Slick Native. Slick Native. How does he get in touch with you, Big T?
Evil. I agree, Brandon. That was evil. That was an evil turn.
I love that move though to send him to a different
I love
spot.
how you changed the chat. That was funny, actually. I was not expecting that.
I had to keep them on their toes. I love that.
Yeah, that was impressive right there.
How did you want us to give it to him?
So Slick Native, DM IPT 007. DM him and he'll tell you either Venmo or PayPal because he didn't let me know, but DM him and he'll get you set up. So hit him up in the Discord.
All right. Player pools will be up. Core players will be up. Good luck in your contest tonight. For JSU, for Big T, I'm JT. We will see you next week.